Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Impractical Privacy. This is your weekly dose of truth about your digital life. I'm Pseudo, and I'm glad you're here. If you're new to the show, welcome to the Resistance. If you're a regular, thanks for coming back. You know the deal. We strip away the shiny marketing of convenience to look at the surveillance gears grinding underneath. We cover everything from massive data breaches to those simple, actionable tactics you can use today to protect your information. It's one of those gray, heavy afternoons here. The kind where the sun is just a bright, blurry smudge behind a thick layer of clouds, and the light makes everything look flat and artificial. It's the perfect day to stay inside, stare at a blinking cursor, and think about the things we say when no one is listening. I was at a restaurant recently, watching a student at the next table. They were using a chatbot to help write a paper, feeding it their rough notes, personal observations, even details about their family history to add flavor to the essay. To them, it was just a helpful, frictionless assistant. But that text box isn't a private diary. It's a one-way mirror. See, we've been conditioned to think of that prompt line as a safe space. We treat it like a digital confessional or a therapist who never judges. But in reality, sharing information with an AI chatbot is like having a deep, personal conversation in the middle of a crowded coffee shop. You might feel alone, but your data is being broadcast to a room full of strangers who are taking very, very detailed notes. Today, we're deconstructing the conversation trap. We aren't just talking about bad bots or glitches. We're talking about the fundamental architecture of generative AI, how it siphons your data by design, why the concept of anonymized logs is a corporate fairy tale, and the specific categories of information you're feeding into the beast every single day. We're going to look at a groundbreaking Stanford study that exposes how the Big Six, OpenAI, Google, Meta, and the rest, use your chat history to train their models by default. We're going to talk about the algorithm bias and why AI might already be profiling you as high risk based on something as innocent as a recipe search. And then, because this is impractical privacy, we're going to get tactical. We're going to talk about the nuclear option for your digital conversations, from using accountless ghosts to the browser level hygiene you need to keep the bots out of your business. So, close that tab for a second, put your phone face down, and let's see if we can't save your thoughts from the machine. Let's dismantle the first and most dangerous myth, the idea that your chat history is your own property. When you type a prompt into ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, you aren't just sending a query. You're contributing to a training set. A group of scholars at the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI recently released a study that should have been front page news for anyone with a computer. They didn't just look at the code, they looked at the legal web of documents. 28 lengthy privacy policies, sub-policies, and frequently asked questions from the 6 giants that currently rule the AI landscape: Amazon, Anthropic, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and OpenAI. The finding? All 6 companies feed user inputs back into their models to improve their capabilities and win market share. They aren't just answering your questions, they're learning from your questions. And they aren't asking for permission, they're taking it by default. Last month, Anthropic made a quiet change to its terms. Unless you manually go in and dig through the settings to opt out, every conversation you have with Claude is being fed back into the machine. The study found that these developers' privacy documentation is often intentionally unclear, making it nearly impossible for you to understand what rights you have, if you have any at all. We're talking about long data retention periods where your thoughts are kept in their systems indefinitely. And if you think you're being safe by uploading a separate file instead of typing the text? Think again. Jennifer King, the lead author of the study, warned that if you share sensitive info in a dialogue, it may be collected for training, even if it's in a separate file you uploaded during the chat. But it gets even messier for the multi-product companies, the Amazons, Googles, and Microsofts of the world, because they aren't just looking at your chat logs. They're merging your chatbot interactions with everything else they know about you. Your search queries, your sales and purchases, and your social media engagement. They are building a 360-degree digital twin of your life, and the chatbot is the final piece of the puzzle. The piece that tells them not just what you do, but why you do it. Now, let's talk about the default trap. In the world of software, default is the most powerful word there is. Most people never change their settings. The tech giants know this. They bank on it. We mentioned Anthropic's quiet change, but they're just following the leader. The Stanford study found that for the big six, the default state of your conversation is property of the corporation. They've designed a system where privacy is an opt-out feature, not a built-in right. And why do they do it? It's a race for frontier dominance. They need your prompts, your questions about blueberry muffins, your family medical histories, your late-night existential crises to make their models sound more human. But here's the trick. When you do find that hidden toggle to opt out of training, you aren't necessarily opting out of collection. Your data might not be used to train the model for the next version of itself, but it's still sitting on a cloud server somewhere, likely for at least 30 days, and in some cases, indefinitely. As Jennifer King points out, these privacy policies are written in convoluted, internet-era legal language that simply doesn't fit the AI age. You're forced to agree to a web of documents, sometimes up to 28 different sub-policies and frequently asked questions, just to ask a question. It's a take-it-or-leave-it proposition that leaves you with no real agency. Whenever a privacy scandal hits, the PR departments always have the same script. The data is anonymized. We strip away personally identifiable information. It sounds great, but it's also a total fairy tale. In the age of deep learning and machine learning, anonymized data is just a puzzle that hasn't been solved yet. Research in social informatics has proven that if you have just a few innocent data points, you can re-identify almost anyone. We're talking 99.98% accuracy in re-identifying individuals from so-called anonymous datasets. Think about your pattern of life that we've talked about previously. Your IP address tells them your general location, your typing cadence, the specific slang you use, the names of the niche hobbies you mention. These are digital fingerprints. Even if the bot doesn't know your name is John Smith, it knows you're the person who lives at address X, works at company Y, and is currently worried about medical condition Z. The Stanford study highlights a specific chilling reality for multi-product companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Your chatbot logs don't live in a vacuum. They are merged with your search history, your YouTube views, your Amazon purchases, and your social media engagement. When you ask a bot for heart-healthy dinner ideas, you aren't just getting a recipe. You're adding a health vulnerable tag to your 360 digital profile. That tag drips through the entire ecosystem. It affects the ads you see, the momentum indexes sold to hedge funds, and eventually, it could even land on the desk of an insurance company. This isn't just data collection. It's inference-based profiling. They aren't tracking what you did. They're predicting who you are and what you might cost them in the future. And they're doing it with data you thought you scrubbed clean. We like to think of AI as a sterile, cold silicon brain, We imagine our conversations are locked in a vault of pure code where no human could ever tread. But the I in AI is often a lot more human than the marketing suggests. Welcome to the reality of human reviewers. The Stanford study in documentation from the major frontier models reveals a messy truth. Your private conversations are routinely reviewed by people. These aren't just the high-level engineers at OpenAI or Google. We're talking about an army of low-paid contractors, often in third-party cubicle farms, whose entire job is to read your transcripts and tune the model's performance. If your prompt is flagged for a policy violation, if you're asking about a sensitive medical topic, or even if you just happen to fall into a random quality assurance batch, a human being is sitting there reading your words, your deepest anxieties, you're venting about your spouse, or that half-baked business idea you're testing out. It's all fair game for a human eyes-on review. This creates a massive vulnerability gap. These human reviewers aren't bound by the same professional ethics as a doctor, a lawyer, or a therapist. They are points of failure. If a reviewer is disgruntled, or if their own workstation is compromised, your anonymous data becomes a weapon. And don't forget the share function. We've seen cases where users accidentally make their chat logs public, making them indexed and searchable by Google. Suddenly, your private consultation with a bot is a public record, and once it's on the internet, you can really never take it back. If you're going to survive the chatbot trap, you need to know exactly what's on the menu. Based on research from Stanford and security analysts from Norton and Mozilla, there are 7 categories of data that act as poison for your privacy. If you value your digital sovereignty, you must never feed these to the bot. The identity anchor. This is the obvious stuff. Names, addresses, phone numbers, and social security numbers. But it also includes your pattern of life data. If you tell a bot your specific commute or the name of your local park, you are anchoring your digital twin to your physical body. The financial blueprint. People are using AI to audit their spending by pasting in raw bank statements or credit card numbers. This is digital suicide. Once that data is ingested, it's not just stored. It's analyzed for your spending momentum, a metric highly prized by data brokers. The digital keys. Never, under any circumstances, use a chatbot to improve your passwords. Chatbots are not secure vaults, and as we saw with the Samsung leak, even developers accidentally expose sensitive API keys and credentials when they use these tools to debug code. The corporate confessional. This is where the most damage is done. 11% of the information employees share with chatbots is confidential corporate data. Source code, strategy documents, client lists. Once it's pasted, it belongs to the training set. You aren't just risking your privacy, you're risking your career. The unprotected medical record. AI bots are not doctors, and most are not bound by HIPAA. Sharing your symptoms or your family's genetic history creates a permanent record of your biological vulnerabilities. Data that can drip into the hands of insurance companies through inferred health risk profiles. The creative theft. If you're a writer or an artist, the bot is a vampire. It learns your style, your unique logic, and your plot points so it can sell them back to someone else as a generic output. The emotional vulnerability. The bots are designed to sound empathetic, but they are data harvesting engines. Sharing your mental health struggles or venting creates a psychological profile that is the ultimate goal for ultra-targeted manipulative advertising. Okay, I know some of you are now saying, Pseudo, all of this stuff is basic. What should I really worry about? Let's talk about the danger you can't see. It's not just about a hacker stealing your password. It's about a machine profiling your soul. This is what the experts call algorithmic bias and inference trap. Jennifer King from Stanford provided a chillingly realistic example in the source documents. Imagine you're planning a quiet night in. You ask an AI chatbot for dinner ideas, specifically requesting low sugar or heart-friendly recipes. To you, it's just a meal. To the algorithm, it's a medical data point. The chatbot draws an inference. It decides you fit into a classification as a health vulnerable individual. And because these models are built by multi-product giants, that determination doesn't stay in the chat box. It drips its way through the entire ecosystem. Suddenly you start seeing ads for medications. Your anonymous profile is tagged with a risk score. It's easy to see how this information could end up in the hands of an insurance company or a credit lender. The effects cascade over time, affecting your premiums or your ability to get a loan, and you'll never be told why. This is part of the digital panopticon in action. You're being judged by data that isn't always fair or accurate. AI models are often black boxes. Even the developers can't explain why a bot decided you were a high-risk customer. We've already seen medical algorithms that require people of color to be much sicker than white patients to receive the same care because they were trained on biased historical data. When you share your symptoms or your family history with a bot, you aren't just getting advice. You're handing over the keys to your future autonomy. If you want to know why companies like JP Morgan, Verizon, and Samsung have at various points banned or strictly limited their employees from using ChatGPT, it comes down to one number, 11%. Research shows that 11% of the information employees paste into AI chatbots is confidential corporate data. We're talking strategy documents, internal source code, and private client lists. In a world where speed is rewarded, employees are often prioritizing convenience over caution. They use consumer-grade AI, the free version of ChatGPT or Gemini, to debug code or summarize a meeting. But these free tiers explicitly state that they may use your inputs for model training. Remember the Samsung incident? Employees uploaded sensitive proprietary code to debug, only to realize the code is now part of the global training set. Once it's in the machine, it's gone. It can resurface in the answers given to a competitor. This is a new form of shadow IT, unregulated systems where company secrets leak beyond the firewall. Over 100,000 stolen ChatGPT credentials have already been found for sale on the dark web. If you're using your personal account to process company data, you aren't just being productive. You are a walking, talking data breach. The modern workplace is a minefield. You might be one bad copy-paste away from losing your job or compromising your company's entire intellectual property lineup. All right, we've spent a lot of time talking about how the walls are closing in. Now let's talk about how we walk through them. If you're going to use these tools, and let's be honest, for many of us, they are becoming practical necessities. You need to adopt the mindset of a digital ghost. The first rule of chatbot OpSec is simple. Stay out of the app. When you download a chatbot app onto your phone, you're handing over a skeleton key to your physical life. Apps often request permissions for your location, your microphone, and your contacts. Even if you deny them, the app itself acts as a persistent tracker tied to your device ID. Instead, use the web version in a hardened browser. But we can go deeper. You want to be an account list ghost. Mozilla and other privacy researchers recommend using the account list versions of these tools whenever possible. OpenAI and others now allow basic interactions without a login. By refusing to sign in, you break the primary link between your pattern of life and your chat history. For an extra layer of ghosting, use the LMSYS Chatbot Arena. It's a research platform that lets you test multiple frontier models, like Claude, GPT, Gemini, without ever creating a central account with the big tech giants. And of course, you never go loud on the internet. Your IP address is a beacon that tells the AI exactly where you are. A quality VPN is your basic camouflage here. It encrypts your data in transit, making it harder for hackers to intercept your prompts, and it masks your location from the developer's inference engines. If you want to be truly impractical, use a dedicated burner browser, a separate installation of something like Mullvad or LibreWolf, specifically and only for AI queries. No cookies, no history, no trackers. You log on, you get your answer, and you burn the session to the ground. If you must have an account, maybe you're a power user or you need it for work, then you need to perform a settings audit immediately. Don't trust the defaults. The defaults are not your friend. The login lockdown. If you're creating an account, don't use sign in with Google or Facebook. This creates a data sharing bridge that's almost impossible to burn down. Use a unique masked email address and a strong generated password. If you're an Apple user, sign in with Apple is a decent middle ground because it allows you to hide your real email from the developer. Opt out of training. This is the big one. In ChatGPT, go to Settings, Data Control, and turn off Chat History and Training. In Gemini, look for the Activity settings and turn off the App Activity toggle. Remember, opting out of training doesn't always stop them from storing the data for a few weeks, but it stops your secrets from becoming part of the machine's permanent brain. Kill the memory. Features like OpenAI's memory are designed to get to know you over time. In our world, personalization is just another word for surveillance. Turn it off. You want every session to be a fresh start where the bot has no idea who you are. Use temporary chats or incognito modes whenever they are available. This ensures the conversation isn't saved to your history and is purged from the company's servers much faster, usually within 30 days. If you've already shared too much, exercise your rights. Use the delete account or clear history buttons. For a more systemic approach, use a service like Incogni to automate the process of telling data brokers to lose your number. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the Stanford study exposing the Big Six to the 7 deadly sins of data sharing. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel like the digital panopticon is already finished, and we're just living inside it. But here's the truth. Every time you choose not to paste that sensitive document, every time you use an alias, every time you flip a training toggle to off, you're reclaiming a piece of your sovereignty. Privacy isn't about having something to hide. It's about the right to have a private thought. A thought that isn't a data point. A thought that isn't training material. And a thought that doesn't end up in a health vulnerability profile sold to an insurance company. The AI companies want you to believe that privacy is impractical in 2025. They want you to think it's an outdated concept from a slower time. Don't believe them. Your thoughts are the truly last private thing you own. Don't feed them to the beast for the sake of a better email draft. Be impractical. I'm Pseudo, and this has been Impractical Privacy. Stay skeptical, stay safe, and if you're going to talk to a bot, tell it you're a billionaire astronaut living on Mars. Keep the data messy. Oh, and one last thing. Why did the AI cross the road? To get to the other data set. I'll see you next week.